It's always difficult for people to know where to place me because I work live with my family in Hungary and doing this work, but I also collaborate with our colleagues um, in the University of Turku in Finland. I thank Bjorn and Inga for including me and our work and our program in this conference once again. And we look forward to the opportunity to be able to compare and think together in discussion sessions as we move along. In my last talks in the last few years, I dedicate my talks to an inspiring woman and man in our field who have made a great contribution. And I'd like to dedicate this talk to András Nobilis, who is a senior neonatologist in Budapest who passed away a while ago. But I've been talking to him about the close collaboration with parents program, and he was very, very curious. But he said, in his work as a neonatologist and looking at his staff, he is always trying to get doctors and nurses to listen to babies. And then he paused when he was talking about it, and he said, when you listen to the baby, everything else follows. And this was a great insight from a clinical leader at that time. So I will be talking about the close collaboration with parents training program. There are 4 colleagues who've been centrally involved over the last 8 or 9 years in developing it. Myself, also Lisa Lettinen, who is here and is the professor of pediatrics and leader of the close collaboration with parents training program. So Lisa, I also invite you to, when we get to the discussion part, to join me for sure. I also mentioned Sari Alkvist Bjorkroth, who is the coordinator of the close collaboration training program, and Anna, and also mother of her son who was born prematurely. So she is someone I listen to a great deal because her instincts and reading of what we're involved in come from this mothering experience and also from her professional contribution. Anna Axeline, who was a NICU nurse for a number of years, developed protocols for parents' involvement in painful procedures with their babies in the NICU, also facilitated holding during painful procedures, and is now in the Faculty of Nursing Science at the University of Turku. This is a look at our group. It was a sunny day and everybody was smiling. And these are colleagues of our team and also from 2 Finnish NICUs who are involved in our training. The key elements in the training program, it obviously involves some kind of discussion and consensus that takes a long time with the staff and leadership of a participating unit before there's kind of agreement to begin the training. The training itself is targeted for the whole multi-professional staff of a unit. The training program involves, first of all, 4 theoretical phases which build on each other, a lot of bedside practice and mentoring in the unit, and also an ongoing reflection and group supervision with the staff and those who are involved in the training. So essentially, we are involved in training work with parents to listen and watch babies with parents and develop the ability to collaborate with parents as they take on more and more responsibility for their care of the baby in the unit. There are 4 phases. I'm going to just describe them briefly, but the first phase is a lot of practice in observing babies' behavior and developing a framework of understanding what babies are communicating through their behavior. The theoretical base for this observation came from an understanding of an organization of infant behavior. I myself was trained originally in the NBAS. I had a lot of introduction and work work on the APIB and also on the NNS, the Neonatal Network Neurobehavioral Scale. So the observations that we're involved in come from my experience directly in helping people see babies through this framework. And in terms of the staff, expanding their capacity to see the baby's individual characteristics and begin to think about how to be involved as parents are engaging them and using observations with parents and with colleagues. The second phase, which is probably the most fundamental, is watching babies with parents. This involves active listening, and I'll say as a trainer, this is also very challenging because I am constantly engaged with intensivists who have to make serious decisions, who have a mindset towards care where there hasn't been often enough opportunity to support the ability to be quiet and to listen and use that as a basis for engaging parents. So it's often challenging, for some people frustrating, to develop this, but they are able to do it. And once they understand what it is to be a more quiet, listening presence, then they can balance out other kinds of activity involved in collaborating with parents. The third phase is understanding individual characteristics of parents and babies. So basically, in the first phase, we're supporting looking at babies in their personhood and uniqueness. And in this phase, we're helping staff recognize the differences in both parents and families and thinking more about how this is all working out in the consultation, because there are differences in baby situation, there are differences in parents, both mental health status and in terms of their receptivity to this process, not just in the training itself, but at the process of being a parent in a NICU in this complex setting. So the fourth phase, am I coming through okay? All right. That's a reflective question. A family-centered transition from hospital to home. And so we've really taken on helping to think about collaborative decision-making so that parents and staff have an equal opportunity to contribute to decisions that are made. And basically integrating parents into care right from the beginning is also an anticipation of that time, however long it takes, where there will be a transition from the hospital to the home. And this is an ongoing consideration at the unit level about what understandings and practices are in place and how to improve the work with the parents with the anticipation of what their situation is like and starting to anticipate what it's like to go home very early in care. How do we train the whole staff of a unit? Basically, if you see from this slide, there are actually two groups. So the initial group on the left side will go through the 4 phases of the training. And then in the right side, you see a tutored group, which also then, after the first phase, is tutored by staff who have learned the basics of the program and are actually involved in tutoring the second group. The progress of the training, I've already indicated this, but there's a lot of time involved in talking with the unit leadership. What are the goals? What does the program look like? What are the issues involved when you are looking at this as a unit-wide training? And also a lot of facilitated collaborative discussions with staff. There are issues about parents involved in care, how they see the training program, the frustrations that occur in their work, their fears, their joys, their hopes. And so there's a long process. In the starting phase, it always involves an initial training week, a day of lectures, and followed right away by 4 days of demonstration and active practice in the unit. intensive training, the next part, is where we really have to focus on the unit mentors. So they get their own kind of individual training and supervision, a lot of practice in the NICU, and also the resource of a regular attention and reflective supervision groups. In the implementation phase, which is more directed towards that second group, if you remember the previous slide, there's a 3-day seminar for unit leadership and mentors that help to prepare the unit for training in the second half of the staff, because there's different kinds of issues involved. When the first phase, there are sort of outside mentors who are coming and helping with the training and the learning, and now we are having identified mentors who also are within the staff and need extra support for turning towards the rest of their colleagues. The amount of training for each staff member, basically this is a summary, and I think it helps people to say, well, actually how much commitment, because also in a lot of our work, the hospital is kind of making what we sometimes call an in-kind contribution of staff being available, paying their salaries so that they can concentrate on this training. So theoretical training demonstrations is 2 days, and it's roughly a year and a half for this training phase. There's a training manual that supports training, and then individual bedside practice with a mentor. There are 2 staff members from a unit that are trained to work as mentors with the other staff during a year and a half period. Each staff member has 8 work shifts, okay? So these are dedicated work shifts, whatever it is, 8 hours, 10 hours, to be practicing individually with a mentor. So that's 3 work shifts during phase 1, 3 shifts during the second phase, and 1 shift for each of the third and fourth phase. And very important to all of this, I think, again, is the opportunity to reflect on what's going on, to have the issues that come up, the feelings, the confusion, the hopes, etc. So in each training, there's a weekly supervision group that is available, but actually each staff member attends one supervision group in roughly every 6-week period throughout the training program. They also get, though, contact with the mentor, where there's this processing and reflective supervision going on separate from the group context. This is our training manual. It's available right now, obviously, in Finnish. This is our English version, and actually I'll be talking a bit about our work in Hungary, where we have a translated version which is not yet published, but we hope will be published in the next few months. Eligibility. So obviously this is a challenge because there are different unit configurations where maybe the leadership in nursing is involved in a particular kind of intervention or training. We need both leaders of nursing and neonatology to basically be able to agree that they want this training, and the hospital administration. And I've already mentioned this, but we are often in a longer process of developing some amount of closer understanding of what's involved in training and the ability over time to commit to a consensus about actually starting the training. Population of high-risk babies that are served by close collaboration. It's training for the whole multidisciplinary staff in the NICU, and that's all the babies that they care for. The training involves practice with all families in the unit during the total stay of the family in the unit. Families benefit from changes in care practices because as the training is going on and there's reflective supervision, staff are often taking a more thoughtful look at what's existing in care practices, and so there's often kind of changes that are occurring during the period of time that the training is taking place. These innovations arise in care from the staff listening to parents, babies, and through reflection, becoming more capable of listening to each other. So I often find when I'm involved in training, there has to be a coherency of listening with parents, listening with babies and the parent-baby relationship, but there's a huge challenge of getting colleagues to be able to be more capable of listening to each other. Training has been successful in different hospitals around Finland, both level 3 hospitals, regional university affiliated, level 2 hospitals with different sizes of NICU, and different challenges like places that are where there are a lot of families that are a long distance between the hospital and the home. The stage of development that we're at this program, I don't know if this is a good analogy, but I think we're past our infancy, but I tend to think we're in kind of like the toddler period of the development of this training program. But we have developed a full training package, roughly a year and a half, that has been expanded internationally. We've done the training at Turku University Hospital, where we began 8 or 9 years ago, and where there's a lot we learn from with staff who've been involved in this in a coherent way in the unit for so many years. We've trained 5 other NICUs in Finland, and at least 2 new Finnish units will start training in September 2015. We are doing the training in 1 NICU in Hungary, and I say we, but I also, and pointed to myself, but we've already had seminars with our Finnish colleagues, and we have plans for how to kind of move this from a Finnish setting to a Hungarian setting. And there are several units in other countries in Europe and North America that have expressed an interest in this training. In some ways, I'm saying there's a certain selectivity for people and units who are interested in this work, because they recognize the challenges of doing something that is so comprehensive. The volume of training, we do about 2 to 4 units per year right now, and as we say, we have an international model for training. Sustainability of training, there are different ways to understand sustainability, but we took it to really be that in a unit, everyone is trained, and the practice is continued past the training period by all the staff. That means that the training program doesn't disappear if one of the experts leaves, and this is some issue in some kinds of interventions. There is continuing reflection on care practices that again goes past the training period, and there's an understanding of the need for that, the need to have somewhere to go to reflect and sometimes to express disagreement or misunderstanding. It's not therapy, but it is a time where people hopefully have developed the intention to try to hear from each other and to work better together. There's mentoring new staff, and it's built into the training model because there are dedicated mentors who will take on training of new staff. So there's no new investment required for sustainability after the training has occurred. It's integrated into new staff orientation. Close collaboration manual supports training of new staff, and mentor nurses who have an ongoing influence. Spreading information. There are a couple of our most recent articles at the bottom of this slide, which will appear on the webcast. We were very grateful in the last 2 years to be able to participate in the Gravens conference, and Lisa Lettinen gave a wonderful talk about the kind of foundations theoretically and in terms of research for our close collaboration with parents training program. And we're also able to do more intensive workshops at Gravens, and we're grateful for that. We have a website, which is that link. If you can copy that, good luck to you, but it will be there on the website, or I could show you it individually. And that includes, as I understand it, ability to click on and to look at our manual. being a native English speaker, I know how to kind of pick up the pace when I have to. There was already a sign to me that I had less than a minute left. She's standing up. Just one final thing. Invitation to those who can do it. There will be an informational seminar at the internet about our international close collaboration with parents training in Turku, Finland, June 4th to 5th, 2015. You can contact our colleague, Sari Alfist Björkroth. That is her email address. We always have a thank you slide, but I'd like to do it personally, and thank you for your attention. I'm the only one standing between you and the coffee break, and so I think it was great to see people rally to listen to me, but now you get the reward of having a coffee break. Thank you.